All right. I'd like to welcome to the Love in Reality podcast from Building the Band. Haley, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good, Ricky. How are you?
Not too bad. Excited to chat with you about your time on the show. I was a huge fan of the show. It's such a unique and different music competition show like we've ever seen before. I've said that it's like a balance of like The Circle and Love is Blind, but a music version of it, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's definitely like nothing we've ever seen before. So the viewers are in for a little treat.
Absolutely. But let's take audiences back a little bit, right? Tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about Haley, right? The person, who you are, how you got into music and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I started doing like musical theater when I was pretty young. I performed in all like the school talent shows and I did like performed at meet and greets and fashion shows and charity events. And then I started making my own original music and I've been a solo artist my whole life. So the idea of being in a band was like pretty interesting to me. So I figured I'd like, might as well give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where the interesting concept of the show comes from, right? You go from the idea of potentially, like you said, being a solo artist and the idea of building potentially building a band. Talk to me about maybe those feelings as you're getting ready to perform your song. What made you kind of dive into that world of that song? And you perform the song by Sabrina Carpenter as well, but nerves level
Yeah.
going into that performance.
Yeah, I mean, I love Sabrina Carpenter and I love like the cutesy, girly type songs. Obviously, I love like an emotional ballad as well. And like before going out on the stage, I was like, really need to ground myself. Like, of course, there were like the little butterflies, but more than anything, I was just so excited. Like, I've been performing for a while, so I was like, okay, it's just another stage to conquer, just a bigger one for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy to hear the dynamic and in talking to a lot of the cast and hearing the dynamic of like the performances and then you kind of sit there and you're kind of waiting around to figure out of was I liked enough? You know what I mean? Like to get to that next phase. What was it like to find out you did get enough likes to move on to the next phase of the competition?
I was so excited to find out I got enough likes. I was like, fingers crossed. I just want the lights to turn pink because obviously, it's almost like we're auditioning for everybody, literally, and we have to like hope that enough people connect with our voices and connect with us as people. So I was definitely nervous, but I was just hoping that, enough people would be able to see enough through my audition. And yeah.
Yeah, there's that limbo process, right? You know what I mean? And I don't know, obviously how we see it play out was between the first batch and second batch of Allison making the decision of which route she wanted to go. Talk to me about like the idea of, oh my God, like we're the final band. I could potentially miss this by just this much. You know what I mean? Talk to me about that and what was it like kind of waiting to see if you were going to move forward?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm a very much like everything happens for a reason type of person. And I was like, okay, like if the stars kind of align here and work out, then great. If not, great. Like, with everyone being such a talented musician, it's like, the odds of it happening, it's hard. But, I'm happy that it kind of worked out for, the time being. And I got to like, take the stage and perform and do what I love.
Yeah, talk to me about that, right? So going into that first performance together, I think that's one of my favorite elements of the show because again, you're not seeing one another until the moment you're hitting that stage, right? You guys are performing an Ariana Grande song. You're not getting to rehearse with one another. You guys are all taking your own verse on this song. How did that first performance feel as a group?
Yeah, I mean, like that first performance, it was such like an out of body experience. Just like being in the booths and hearing these voices. You talk to so many different people, and then you hear, people's voices, and then you get to go out on stage. I was just like super excited to like finally put the face with the voice after all that time being in the booths. I'm like, it was pretty wild. I was excited, and then when the wall came up, it's like, oh my gosh, I was smiling so much because it was just like so exciting to finally, it felt like it was really happening. So yeah, it was very cool.
You're fine in that moment. You're like, we're finally here, right? You know what I mean? Like we're finally in the
Yes.
moment of capturing this as a group. We have that first look session, right? I This probably was maybe my favorite of all of it, just because it was more of that intimate feeling of performing as a group. You guys obviously perform I Want It That Way. That was such an intimidating song to take on, right? Talk to me about working on that. But then not only that, like AJ coming in and like giving pointers. It's crazy to take the pointers from the person that performed the song, but talk to me a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, getting to perform I Want It That Way to AJ himself, I was like, this is literally crazy. Like, not many people get to do that. So to like have that opportunity and an experience was like super special. Like, obviously, he's so talented, all of the judges and everyone's just so talented. So, yeah, to get to do that, I was very excited. And like, obviously, he has so much experience and wisdom in the industry. So, like, to get to hear from him and like, he loved our rendition, it was really exciting.
Yeah, it's we see it several times on the show, right? You know what I mean? Then obviously with, Siren Society, they sing "Don't You?" I was like, man, it takes a lot of, it takes a lot to go out there and perform that type of song in front of somebody like that. But I mean, obviously you guys were incredible doing it. But all right, so obviously the one interesting element of the show is we see the tidbits of like the weaving in and out of the performances, trying to work together. There's a lot going on, but then there's very little amount of time that you guys have to actually practice the songs, get those harmonies right, get the choreography right.
Mhm.
Talk to me about working with Haley and Elise ahead of the performances to make sure that you're trying to bring the best performance forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like I went into the process being like, okay, I know for sure I want a girl group, and I really wanted to make it work out and give it my all. And I feel like I definitely did that. I think for us, like with the other bands and stuff, it felt like everyone was like really working together as a team and like super collaborative, and they felt like they had this like supportive friendship in a sense, and that's kind of what I was looking for. I did feel like sometimes like my opinions and like my voice couldn't necessarily be heard as much, but it is what it is, and my time there, I just like tried to keep a really positive mindset and just feel like, okay, I'm going to put my best foot forward and give it my all, and hopefully I can still shine. So yeah, I think like with harmonies and stuff, I think the comment that we got a lot from the judges was that like our blend just isn't really there. They kept saying we see three solo artists, and like that's okay. I just feel like maybe our sounds weren't necessarily mixing. Yeah, I mean, obviously it's difficult to like, three different voices and like, powerhouse singers, put them all together and, throw them out on stage. But, yeah, I had fun.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that point of view from that aspect of things because when you're there in the pods, like it's like you kind of get an idea of what each other want, but you don't really know how all of that's going to work until you come together and start singing together. You know what I mean? Because all three of you do have great, powerful voices that feel like you can lead. So then you kind of put that together, and that strife kind of cause friction, right?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like, obviously, I think like being in a band, like one of the most important parts is like working together as a team and like letting everyone like shine individually. Like, I feel like the most used word was like chemistry. Like, you have to have chemistry. And I just feel like unfortunately we didn't have a lot of that. And I really feel like that can make or break a band. Um, I felt like, we are strong vocalists, and I thought maybe we could take it to the end. But I just feel like, with the outfits and with songs and just like creatively, we weren't really meshing. So yeah, unfortunately, it just didn't work out.
Yeah, and that's obviously part of ironing out, trying to figure out if this band is going to take it to the next level, right? You know what I mean? That's one of the elements. Because even if you look at like a band like Midnight Till Morning, they had some rough patches, but like that
Mhm.
chemistry on during their songs was like unmatched. You know what I mean? It was levels there of seeing that. But let's talk about the judging, right? You're on the
Yeah.
stage, you're performing from Nicole to Kelly to Liam, and then of course even AJ as a host. It's like the heavy hitters of like the bands of all bands there. What was it like? Obviously, there's like an intimidation level within that, but talk to me about performing in them, getting those notes from them, and stuff like that.
Oh gosh, I mean, all of the judges are literally so iconic. And when I found out that, especially like Liam, I was a huge One Direction fan growing up. Like 1D was one of my first concerts ever. I had the posters all up in my room, so you can even see on the show, like I was fangirling for sure. And like just getting to perform in front of him, like it was so special, and like I'm gonna cherish it for the rest of my life. Like obviously like the experience that like Nicole and Kelly and AJ and Liam have, it's just like really unmatched. They're like the kings and queens of bands. And like yeah, they know what they're doing for sure. And even like Nicole, like huge Pussycat Dolls fan. So I was very, very excited to just like, hear what they have to say. And like, they were super supportive, and just like the advice they gave was just like, so like you could feel like they really cared and like had lots of support. And yeah, they're just incredible. It was truly like a crazy, crazy experience.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I thought as well. It's like, because one of the things I loved about the judging aspect, you got the cream of the crop. That's just period. You know what I mean? But
Oh yeah.
their passion for music and actually wanting to help you was kind of cool too. Because sometimes on some of these shows, you can be like, I mean, it was a great performance, but they were kind of critical and kind of wanted to see things a certain specific way. So that was obviously helpful in every performance, right?
Yeah, I feel like, every comment that they made was very intentional, and you can tell there was like a lot of thought behind it. So, yeah, at the end of the day, like they wanted what was best for the bands. And I feel like, all of the bands were obviously like the chemistry was crazy, and like everyone was moving at light speed. And unfortunately, we just like couldn't, blend together like as friends and as people and as artists. And like that's okay. So I feel like it was the right decision to end it where it was, but I'm obviously very grateful for the opportunity. Like it was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about, I mean, obviously being on the biggest streaming platform in the entire world. You know what I mean? And there's an element of that of watching it back, right? You know what I mean? Like reliving some of those things that you did or maybe didn't see. Talk to me about watching it back, and what is it like watching yourself back first? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure if you're like me, I hate watching my interviews back. I'm like this. I don't want to hear my voice. I don't. But as a musician, it's a little bit different. You kind of have to listen to yourself sometimes. But talk to me about watching it back, maybe watching it back with friends, family, that feedback and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I feel like watching it back and reliving it, like with friends and family, like my family, like my mom was like a little upset, obviously, to see some of the things that went down. But I just like reassured her, like, Mom, I'm strong. Like this is nothing. Like it's not a big deal. But like rewatching it's exciting, it's emotional. I think something a lot of people didn't know is that my mom was battling breast cancer while I was on the show. And so, like, obviously, that was a challenge in itself. And I went back and forth on whether or not I should go on the show. I was like, I don't know. Like, I was scared. I didn't want to leave her. But she really encouraged me and was like, baby girl, like, this is Netflix. Like, I want you to, like, live your dreams. And, like, it's going to give her something to look forward to, like, see me on the big screen. So, I went for it, and it was a tough situation. It was definitely like one of the hardest things emotionally for me. But I think just like, thinking of my mom and feeling like I'm doing this for her and I'm going to make my family proud. And I really did. Like my friends and family and like even my parents, coworkers, and just like everyone is just like so proud of the way I carried myself throughout the show. And like my heart, I feel like you could really see that. So that's all I could really ask for. And like right now I'm in LA recording music, and there have been so many people coming up to me. I like went out to the mall and like to this restaurant, and like young girls coming up to me being like, "Oh my gosh, Haley, like you're so amazing and kind," and like wanting to get pictures with me. So it's been a lot of fun, like on the getting the love on social media and just like all the support from fans across the globe. It's crazy. Netflix's stage is huge.
For sure. Talk to me about something that you learned about yourself throughout the entire process of filming the show and even watching it back.
I mean, I think like the biggest lesson I learned was like having resilience, just like getting back up on your feet, like not letting things get to you. Like I feel like when you've been through like real life stuff, and something so emotional and like challenging, it's just like nothing can really affect you. I feel like, I put on this armor, like I'm tough and like nothing affects me. Obviously, we're all human, and like, we go through our challenges and life is difficult. But I think I grew a lot as an artist, as a person, like just like getting to be in a space with so many talented creatives, literally like the best in the world. I think I just like I learned a lot about, being a good person and having patience and like kindness. And I feel like, kindness always wins. Sometimes I think people view kindness as weakness, but I honestly think like it takes a lot of strength to not like, clap back at people or like have bad energy. I just try to keep life very positive and light. Yeah, I think that's all you really can do.